Hello there, and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I'm your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, and apologies in advance. I've got all the windows open. We're in a noisy environment, but it's just too hot. It's 32 degrees Celsius here in the UK, and that's way too hot to be closing yourself in a room with no fans or anything like that. So I thought today I'd talk about a really interesting subject, a botanical subject. It's extra floral nectaries. And I would imagine most people haven't heard about these, so I thought it would be a good episode to talk about a fascinating botanical feature found on many plants. And so these are little glands that can play a big role in plant defense, insect attraction, and even integrated pest management. But what are they, and how can hydroponic growers use them to their advantage? So let's get into it. Extrafloral nectaries, or EFNs, are nectar-producing glands found outside of flowers. So we're all used to flowers producing nectar for pollinators, like bees and moths and things like this, and pollen and nectar being the two rewards that pollinators get. However, unlike floral nectaries, which attack pollinators, extrafloral nectaries typically located on the leaf petiole, the stalk on the end of the leaf blade, so they might actually be on the leaf itself. They can be on stems, or they can be on bracts as part of a bract. And bracts are specialized leaves associated with flowers. Talked about that in a previous episode. And they secrete a sugar-rich fluid. And the purpose isn't to lure pollinators, it's to attract protective insects like ants, ladybirds or ladybugs if you're in North America, and parasitic wasps. Let's just dive into them, because some of those things you might think are not beneficial. We think of ants as being a pest in gardens, and they can actually farm aphids, green fly, white fly, black fly, on your plants and do them harm. They can eat your plants as well, but in some cases, plants can get them to eat pests, and so that'd be good. Ladybirds, obviously, they eat loads of insects that are pests of plants, especially their larvae. But the problem is that things like ladybirds and predatory mites, they can run out of food when there's no pests around. And so things like extrafloral nectaries can be a good source of food when there's no pests around. It keeps the population up. So it's not just the population crashes and dies, especially in a grow room where you haven't got, you don't want to keep on buying them. And parasitic wasps, these are not the yellow stinger wasps. These are tiny microscopic wasps that are really good, because every single pest of a plant, there is a parasitic wasp species that will attack it. And so if you can help them by providing nectar for them with extrafloral nectaries, then isn't that fantastic? And it'd be great for pest control. So they serve a couple of interesting roles: defense against herbivores by attracting ants and other predatory insects. You could also use them as a sign that a plant is drought stressed or there's water deficits, because some plants produce more nectar under stress, and maybe as an indirect defense signal. So it's interesting that you produce more nectar under stress. So you think it would be the other way, wouldn't you? That they would just turn off that nectar, but for some reason they're producing more, which is interesting. So, well, which plants have got extrafloral nectaries? Well, over 4,000 species across more than 100 plant families, are known to have extrafloral nectaries. Some good examples that you might grow in your garden or in your hydroponic setup, your grow room: okra, lady's fingers, very popular in America, not very popular here in Europe. Passion flower and passion fruit, obviously very big in Asia. Cotton, very popular in America, Eastern Europe, Asia. It has lots of extrafloral nectaries. We think of cotton as being this sterile crop that's grown with loads of pesticides, but it doesn't have to be the case. A third of all pesticides in the world are used on cotton, which is a disgrace because it's a non-food crop, and obviously leads to massive problems in the dry areas where it's grown, because they build up and cause cancer. You have cancer clusters in China and places like that where it's grown. Apologies, some chav in his car's just gone past with a massive exhaust. Sunflowers have got extrafloral nectaries, and vetches, lots of beans. So vetches, castor bean, ricinus, and normal broad beans, things like this, all the different types of beans. And some tomatoes under stress or pest pressure can produce extrafloral nectaries, apparently. I've never seen that, but if you've ever seen that, let me know. They can be mistaken for other things. So they can be mistaken for insect damage or the remains of sap-sucking insects. They can be mistaken for fungal or bacterial infections when you get this sticky goo, especially bacterial infections. You think of bacterial canker produces like an ooze, like an amber coming out of the plants, especially cherry trees. And cherry trees have got extra floral nectaries. So you might think that the goo coming out of the extra floral nectaries on the petioles is bacterial canker. But the difference to know is that bacterial canker comes out of bark, and extra floral nectaries on cherry trees are on the petiole or near to the leaf, on the leaf but near the petiole. I used to grow a species of plant called Prunus africana, and that had really, really prominent extra floral nectaries. You might mistake it for guttation. We've talked about guttation in the past. That's where positive root pressure under high humidity during the start, early on in the day, forces liquid out of the leaf margins, and that's normally an unwanted characteristic, whereas you do want your plants producing extra floral nectaries. So, yeah, extra floral nectaries is a deliberate secretion, and as we say, it's nectar, so it's high in sugars, and it can be high in amino acids as well. If you see ants patrolling young leaves and stems and stopping at small glistening dots, then that's likely extra floral nectaries at work. So you can use them in hydroponics as natural attractants if you're growing the crop. Some growers use extra floral nectar-rich crops as insectary plants, like interplanting okra in greenhouses to stimulate that. That's a really good one. I've never known anyone to do that, but I'd be interested to try that. Interesting to grow okra anyway, because I like growing okra. It's a funny vegetable, isn't it? It's really sticky, and obviously ladies' fingers looks like fingers. So yeah, I think it's might be a bit too cold in the UK for that, but it's 32 degrees Celsius at the moment, so who knows? Some of the disadvantages could potentially attract unwanted pests, like certain ants. You've got to make sure that's in balance. May produce a sticky mess in tightly controlled vertical systems if all this nectar was flying everywhere. So I would imagine it's not much of a problem as long as you keep everything sterile and clean. You've got to clean up every now and again, haven't you? If you're not cleaning up dust and things like this from your grow room, it's very important. So potential for growers: reducing reliance on pesticides, strengthening and making your beneficial insect population much more robust, not going through feast and famine, population explosion and then decimation. And they serve as bioindicators of pest problems or even stress. So lots of research going on about this. Could there be genetic enhancements, engineering plant resistance through this? So especially in cotton, legumes, cherries, okra, plants with really big extra floral nectaries. So that's extra floral nectaries. They're powerful, underutilized, but also not many people know about them. So they're tiny glands on your plants. If you have got okra, cherries, beans, growing in your growing environment at the moment, passion flower, cotton, then have a look. Get a microscope or a hand lens and have a look. If you haven't got a hand lens, go onto the Utrema website. We've got LED and UV hand lenses for sale at cost price because we like you, and we give them out to grow shops every now and again to help with when anyone brings in a pest or disease problem into the grow shop. So that's been Hydroponics Daily for today. If you've got extra floral nectaries, if you're growing one of those crops or you know somebody with, then share this podcast with them. And if this podcast has been shared with you, then you owe that person a very cold, icy drink. And you could do me a favor if you could just screenshot your podcast provider here on your phone and then share it on social media and say, I listened to this fantastic episode about extra floral nectaries, and I think you should too. That would mean the world to me, because that would help grow the podcast and increase its listenership. Thank you very much for listening today. I'm going to go and have a very, very cold soak with a hose in my back garden. Until tomorrow. That's probably too much information. That's been Hydroponics Daily. Goodbye.